My son has quit his job to help me build out the Influence Army and to be a part of it. He's totally bought into my vision, and it's one of the most amazing things that's happening or has happened in my life. However, I as he's been helping me for a few weeks, about 10 days ago, we were fighting a bunch. And more specifically, I was fighting with him when he's just trying to help me. And it has brought up a big bunch of awareness in me, which I'm going to talk about, and how we can apply my APPLE framework to move past, grow past that.
You know when someone is selling from stage and at the end the audience gets up and rushes to the back of the room to buy? That's a table rush. My name is Misha Z, and the Table Rush Talk Show is all about bringing you the tools, strategies, and tactics that you can use to grow your audience and inspire them to buy.
Yeah, so obviously I've created my Influence Army community, the Influence Army community, family, gathering place, storm that's rising. There's so many ways to say it. I have a coach. My coach was telling me, perhaps start drifting away from the word membership, because that's very benign, sterile, and doesn't do what I'm creating justice. Doesn't do justice to our community, our storm that's rising to, in effect, change the world. This is going to be, by the way, a 3-part series. So this is part 1, and we're going to be talking about my APPLE framework for when you're wanting to grow past a rough situation, let's say, or you're in upheaval, you're irritated, you're unsure, you're doubtful about your circumstances. So I've got my APPLE framework, which is A, acknowledge your state of discontent or the circumstances. What are the circumstances? And then P, pause. Then pray to your higher power, your God, the universe, your deepest inner knowing, whatever it is. Pray for help, shall we say, or guidance, or intuition, or solution, or how am I going to move past this? So for me, acknowledging, hey, I keep fighting with my son, Cooper. And also, my other son was helping me, and I noticed that in key situations, I would fight with him. So I was like, this has got to change. And then, the pause, pray. I've been praying for a solution. Then listen, and then execute. So listen, you are going to get answers. If we're open, we're going to get answers of some sort. Maybe direct communication, thoughts, intuition, or perhaps we're going to end up in circumstances where people are that conduit to God for us. So I was at a men's retreat, and the men there, one in particular, which I'm going to tell you about, he was a conduit to God for me and gave me some, in a what seemed to be a non-related conversation, gave me some answers that I needed. And then, of course, we got to execute. We've got to apply what we've been learning and change. So this part 1 is going to be about the acknowledgement of the problem, because I was the problem. Most of the time, we don't want to admit it, or I don't want to admit it. I'll speak for me. And it can be hard. And I'm building this community, this movement, this Influence Army movement. And I believe I've been called to do this. I'm very inspired to do it. So it's one of the most important things in my life right now. And then my son, Cooper, and my son, Waylon, they are two of the most important things in my life right now. Cooper's 22, Waylon's 20. And so the fact that Cooper is all inspired to help me, like all in, wow, a blending of this, that's rather amazing. A blending of the Influence Army and then his wanting to help. And then Waylon also. Waylon has been working with me for the last 3 or 4 years, coming to events with me, randomly helping me with a little project. I also, on my vision board, or when I pray for the, hey, what's my future life look like? It's building a business that my family's involved with me. And it's happening. So that is crazy to me, one. Two is that, hey, there's some sort of a family compound on the beachside hill of Encinitas. We've built out a compound. And I love that vision. Cooper loves that vision. And there's some other things. So, and I want to build a business that adds value. I've always wanted to build a business. And I've had smaller businesses along the way and had success as a salesperson, ton of success as a salesperson. I've had varying degrees of success, again, as an entrepreneur. I've, owned a little club for a while. It seems like many of us 80s and 90s kids ended up promoting parties and clubs and DJing. It's so funny. But anyway, and other things that I've done along the way. But the bulk of my success was definitely in sales. So anyhow, I'm going to build a business. So as Waylon has helped me over the past, couple years, helping me with logo work, Canva work, stuff like that. As he's been more than willing to help me at key points along that process, he has, the way I'd frame it is I'd say he is triggering me. So we end up, sort of fighting, not sort of fighting, actually fighting. And even to the point where I'll throw down, throw something like the thing I'm taking notes on, I'll throw it on the ground and be like, you just don't get it, or why are you always fighting with me? That's a great tell that I'm the problem when I say, why are you always fighting with me? Or why are you giving me pushback? Or things like that. And it can make what could be an awesome situation a not so great situation, right? Waylon's just trying to help, be of service. Usually turns out upon reflection, I'm being impatient, I'm overreacting, what else did I write down? Being closed-minded. And there's lots of contempt prior to investigation, meaning I prejudge their solution, their idea, their feedback, their thoughts. So for Waylon, it could feel like, oh, just do it, right? Like, just organize it the way I want to. Just do it. Just do it. Why do you have to make it so hard? And I lose track that, I may be a little bit further ahead on some things, or I don't know how to do it either. So I'm really frustrated that I don't know how to do it. So I'm not giving him the space to sort it out, or for us to talk it through. Things like that. Usually it's, I want to move on to the next thing. And so, yeah, I get impatient. And I apologize for the sound, for the dead spaces in the recording as I flip from my notes. I'm trying to be more structured in this episode, and these episodes, and stay on track. And it's really funny because I've had a bunch of insecurity of late about my episodes, and as I'm trying to be more structured, it's very hard for me because it's not necessarily a habit I have. I tend to riff more, and so I'll be very concerned. This isn't going to be right. I'm not going to do it right. How am I supposed to start? All these kinds of things, and it can feel a little bit messy, and you get to experience that messiness as I flip back and forth between the notes and such. Back to Waylon. Now Waylon, every few months or so, it's like, hey, can I help you with something? Or I'll have an idea and I'll say, hey Wales, I need a little help on a logo. And he'll say, sure. And inevitably, I make it harder than it needs to be, with the excuse that he triggers me and he likes to escalate the situation, the argument. I'll also say that, I dealt with this before, back when he was in grade school, and I would fight with him trying to get his homework done. I would have expectations on how it was supposed to look, how it was supposed to go, and I had a very hard time holding space for his process. And that's the same thing again here. But I had grown through that and broken through that back when he was in grade school, and it was awesome and amazing. And it's funny that now when he wants to help me a little bit, or is willing to help me a little bit, those sorts of triggers come back up in me. And so I'm thinking, I can't do this anymore, especially if I want to grow what I'm doing. I need to figure this out. And by the way, in part 2 or part 3, I'm going to talk about, I had 2 incredible conversations with guys that really have helped me break through it recently, break through this overreacting to my kids, which I was able to implement, and my relationship with how I'm working with my son Cooper now, fast forward a few days, has transformed already. So I can't wait to tell you what I've learned and how it can help you. But again, back to the acknowledging of the pain state, of that I'm the problem and I need to work on me. I don't need to fix them or get them to change. And that's such a powerful concept. The sooner I can figure out that it's me and not them, and how can I take 100% accountability for my 5% of the situation, 50% of the situation, or 75% of the situation, or 90% of the situation. And in this particular case, I was deluded to think that it was 95% their fault and 5% my fault. It's very clear it's 90 to 95% my fault. And they are probably just regretful that they asked to help. And I'll just give you a quick little win is I can already tell that as my attitude has shifted and I've been able to work better with Cooper, that it is going to create the space and the opportunity for Waylon to come back in the fold if he wants to. So that's super exciting. So on to Cooper. And thank goodness I'm making this a 3-part episode, because I sure do have a lot to say. I was worried. I was thinking if I turn this into a 3-part episode where I make the first part about acknowledging I'm the problem, that how would I be able to talk that long? And clearly acknowledging that I'm the problem has given me plenty to talk about. So on to Cooper. So Cooper, as I said, is all in, and he's wanting to help, and he's taking on more responsibilities for the build out of this community, of this movement, of the Influence Army. And I noticed once a day when we would come to a sticky point, and it was, how can we assign tasks to him that he can do, which it turns out was the same thing with Waylon. How can I assign tasks to him that then he can go do and execute on? That's where the sticking point would come, because they would want to talk and communicate and have ideas and talk things through, and other stuff around that, whatever comes with that, right? And it would escalate into a little fight where I would lose patience. I would snap with Cooper. I would I threw a notebook on the ground. I dropped it kind of in disgust. Dropped a notebook in disgust, and I said, all right, this is crazy. This is crazy. I've got a problem here. It hit me in that moment that I can keep saying they're the trigger, this, that, and the other, but no, it's me. And I needed to focus on, anger and fear are directly related. Yes, the anger and fear are directly related. And one last thing, and I'll end this episode and go on to part 2. And perhaps this will be a 4-part episode now, but we'll see. A 4-part series, we'll see. I also had the awareness of, hey, I'm wanting to build this out, and if it's not going to be my boys that I'm frustrated with and having a hard time working with or communicating with at certain key points, it's just going to be somebody else, somebody that I hire. And I also think, interestingly, my friend James told me, he said, well, maybe it's just your kids are a trigger for you and it would be different with an employee. I thought, that is a great point. And I love that idea, and maybe it's true. But the rest of the story is that I want to grow a business with my boys, and they want to help. And that's who's here to help me right now, and who is inspired to help me right now, and is helping me tremendously right now. So I feel definitely compelled to fix this. Yes, I definitely feel compelled to fix this. So, okay, that's the end of part 1 of this 3 or 4-part series, where I'm going to talk about the APPLE framework to help us move past sticky points in our lives. Specifically, this would be business, but it definitely relates to family relationships. All right, listen in for parts 2, 3, and or 4.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.